Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. In this video, I will be comparing the new Knight on the block, Eula Lawrence, in a DPS showdown against two of the mightiest DPS characters in Genshin Impact, Ganyu and Hu Tao. As usual, with a new 5-star DPS character comes a new DPS showdown. But before that, I wanted to quickly thank all of you for being the best audience I ever could have asked for. It's time to pay some bills, and today's video is sponsored by Dragon Raja. Dragon Raja is a beautiful action MMORPG on mobile devices and is powered by Unreal Engine 4. Its beautiful graphics are highly optimized and it's like playing a AAA quality console game in your pocket. Have you been enjoying the housing system in Genshin Impact? Well, with the new update in Dragon Raja, you'll absolutely love the couple home. Players can get married in-game and then buy real estate together, known as the couple home. You can choose the furnishing with your one and only. Customize your home with countless combinations and beautiful decorations. The Golden Iris real estate is open and is ready to welcome you into your dream home on your personal island. On top of a robust housing system, Dragon Raja has the best character creation system I have ever seen on mobile. Create your ideal waifu or husbando with its robust character creation tool, and try on tons of different outfits to find the perfect look for your character. And that's not all. Dragon Raja has an extremely robust community, with over 370,000 people following their Facebook page. Be sure to check out the official Facebook page to gain abundant rewards and first-hand information. The link will be in the description below. So come join me and explore the grand and vivid open world of Dragon Raja. Links to the Android app and the Apple app are in the description below. Thank you everyone for making this sponsorship possible, and thank you Dragon Raja for your generosity in sponsoring this video. Let's familiarize ourselves with our contestants in today's video, starting off with the OG OP secretary of Liyue, Ganyu. Ganyu has shaken the entire game with her absurd damage output since her release. After obliterating all previous DPS metrics in the game, Ganyu is still considered to be a top contender for the strongest in Teyvat. Ganyu has defined the modern expectations of featured 5-star DPS characters in Genshin Impact. My Ganyu will be running either the Blizzard Strayer or the Wanderer set, depending on which set performs better for that specific scenario. Ganyu will also be running the Amos bow throughout. All three of these characters will be at Constellation 6 as well. Now let's take a look at the whimsical prankster and CEO of the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor, Hu Tao. Hu Tao was initially welcomed to the game with mixed expectations, but quickly found herself competitive to other top DPS characters. Hu Tao shook the damage ceiling showcases with the first 2 million damage instance in the game. Ever since then, Hu Tao has been crucial in speedruns, and her charge attack damage is one of the highest single target DPS options. My Hu Tao will be running a few different builds. One is the balanced stats build, or I guess regular Hu Tao, with high amounts of crit rate. The second build is a high HP, low crit rate build, which utilizes her Constellation 6 to provide her with 100% crit rate. And the third build is focused on simply making her burst do as much damage as possible with reactions. This has no crit rate as well, and unlike the previous high HP low crit rate build, this one has a lot of elemental mastery. Hu Tao will be rocking the Staff of Homa. Again, she is also Constellation 6, and her talents are all very well leveled. And finally, we have our Sneezegate Spindrift Knight, Eula Lawrence. Eula Lawrence has had huge shoes to fill, following Ganyu, Xiao, and Hu Tao. What's crazy to me is that if a character is about as good as those three, many consider that character to just be average. I want to make the case that if a character can compete with Ganyu, they are not average, but in fact one of the best characters in the game. A lot of people have been skeptical because she does physical damage. Well, it's time to see if Eula can overcome her shortcomings and hang with the best of them. My Eula will be running the Pale Flame set with varying amounts of crit rate. Basically, I would increase my crit damage as needed and fish for crits as needed. I will specify whether I use low crit rate or high crit rate builds. Eula will be dancing into this competition with the Song of Broken Pines, also at Refinement 5, and she is at Constellation 6 as well. Her talents are also very well leveled. All three of these characters each have one crown talent. As usual, there are always ways to save time in any and all of these runs. These runs were all my best effort at each of them within a reasonable amount of time. What awaits our 3 5-star DPS characters? As always, we will be starting off this DPS showdown with my favorite volunteers and appetizers, the Regisvines. But this time we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We will be enjoying both the Cryo and Pyro Regisvine. Let's start off with the Frozen Iceberg Lettuce Cryo Regisvine. Now, before you comment on how this is unfair for Ganyu, yes, that's precisely the point. Despite how unfair this was for Ganyu still handily dispatched the Frozen Iceberg Lettuce in 9.5 seconds. As for Hu Tao, well, this fight is as trivial as can be, and as long as you use a different Pyro character to break its orb thing, once it's down, a single charge attack and a burst will fry our poor plant friend. Eula is an interesting case here. In case you aren't aware, Regisvines have increased physical resistance after they're knocked down. However, you can shred the Regisvine's resistance with Eula's Hold E while breaking its orb. After that, the rest is history. Just use Eula's burst into a quick swap and you'll knock out Regisvine in almost no time at all. Next, let's move on to our next giant sleeping plant friend, the Pyro Regisvine. I think it goes without saying, but the spicy salad, Pyro Regisvine, heavily resists pyro damage, even while knocked down. So let's see how this one goes. I'm sure it's to no one's surprise that when something no longer resists cryo, Ganyu is able to quickly dispose of whatever that thing is. In this case, our good sport and always willing volunteer, the Pyro Regisvine. As the old saying goes, fight fire with fire, but whoever came up with that advice clearly didn't factor in pyro resistances in Genshin Impact. Despite the heavy pyro resistance, Hu Tao still effortlessly disposed of our spicy salad friend, but in an agonizingly long 7.4 seconds. And now for Eula. This brings me to why I did both of the Regisvines. Eula can annihilate both of them very quickly, even though they both have some physical resistance. This is a unique advantage that Eula has over both Hu Tao and Ganyu. I guess her noble blood has allowed her to savor both frozen salads and spicy salads. Next for Teyvat's second most favorite punching bag and volunteer, Dvalin's Zit. Dvalin's Zit has been a staple in showcases in Genshin Impact, and we will see who is the best dermatologist. But before this showcase, I wanted to quickly point out that the camera resets every time you shoot your charge shot for the Dvalin fight, even with this setting turned on in the menu. As usual, I start timing after Dvalin has been knocked out of the air. When it comes to knocking Dvalin out of the air, Ganyu has a monopoly on doing it the fastest. But once Dvalin is on the operating table, Ganyu has to awkwardly aim upward at the Zit every time, which hurts her Constellation 6's viability, but still makes her Constellation 6 worth using over just plain aimed shot. Nonetheless, I would recommend Ganyu as a dermatologist. Next for Hu Tao. Hu Tao is the type that needs to get up close and personal. She has to exhaustively climb up Dvalin's neck in order to extract the pimple, with her ghost. Well, whatever works, and now Dvalin's Zit is in the afterlife. Albeit comparatively late to the appointment, Hu Tao is still a great dermatologist. So what happened with Eula? Well, let's just say the dermatologist brought in a machete and chucked it at the Zit. By knocking Dvalin down with her burst already active, all Eula has to do now is switch out in range of the Zit to chop it off. This was brutally and unexpectedly efficient. Truly a scary and lethal dermatologist. Now for my favorite character in the game, Child, aka Tortorgliargorg, aka the guy that never drops a shadow. Tortorgliargorg is an interesting outlier compared to the previous fights because of his multiple phases. Yet again, another victim of Ganyu's overpoweredness. With a C6 here and a C6 there, it was hard to even notice that Child had a second phase. Third phase Child is almost no different, and Ganyu can just shoot him wherever he might be. Hu Tao can face tank Form 1 Child with her Constellation 6, and then efficiently disposes of both forms in a single infusion window. You may have noticed that these clips are the same from my Ganyu vs Hu Tao showdown. Although I tried this a couple times, any attempt I did recently was actually slower than my older times. As such, I just went with these previous clips. As expected, the 11th Fatui Harbinger was no match for the #1 Funeral Parlor employee. Now this fight is actually extremely annoying with Eula. Form 1 Child often blocks Claymore attacks. Nonetheless, Eula is taking arrows to the face like a boss. Eula's hold E is an effective mini nuke, especially with 2 Grimheart stacks, and quickly disposes of second form Child. Third form Child is just a quick burst away from being sent back to Shinesnaya. I did want to point out that a couple of seconds can be shaved off Eula's run, but I never had the proper RNG aligned for me. And now for our last overworld victim, volunteer, the Primo Geo Vishap. This is a fight where it's single target without reactions but still is a large target. As such, buffering Ganyu's burst before the fight does help her tremendously. Her burst is very strong against larger targets. Nonetheless, 13 1/3 seconds to take out the Primo Geo Vishap is very respectable. Hu Tao is able to capitalize on her extremely high single target DPS charge attacks, and this is clearly reflected through her being faster than Ganyu in this fight. However, it's worth noting that a bit of time can be saved on Hu Tao's run, because I think I whiffed a normal attack, which allowed the Primo Geo Vishap to survive for just a tiny bit longer. Now this is a situation where Eula's insane damage ceiling really shines. Eula is an interesting character in that she has a ton of flexibility when it comes to making her burst do more damage, because all she has to do is do some more attacks to add stacks. In this case, with a bit of RNG and a few extra stacks from her basic attacks, Eula did enough damage to effortlessly one-shot the Primo Geo Vishap. Also keep in mind that the Primo Geo Vishap has increased physical resistance. Okay, so this next section, the Abyss 12 Gauntlets, are going to be the least developed and conclusive sections. And what do I mean by that? They are the least developed and least conclusive in the sense that they have the most room for improvement and variation. I'm just one guy, and each of these runs takes hours, if not days, if not weeks to fully optimize. And doing essentially 6 of these, it's impossible for me to run all of them anywhere near perfect in the amount of time I've had. Also, this is why the video took me so long to make. Alright, an Abyss 12 Gauntlet is when you run through Abyss 12 with a full team, all while clearing each chamber consecutively. Also, when possible, I do not choose any offensively beneficial cards. For part 1 of Abyss 12, Ganyu and Hu Tao will actually be on the same team. Ganyu's fastest team uses Hu Tao, and Hu Tao's fastest team, uses Ganyu. For Eula, she will be flying solo without the other 2 OP DPSs. Nonetheless, let's see how they do.
関係者部外者禁止それへい一緒に遊ぼうよ逃げようなんて思わないでよねこの仕事は排除するべきですはっへいへいよっはっ風だわめきなさい一緒に遊ぼうよ部外者禁止はっ逃げようなんて思わないでよねはいよっおしゃべり禁止いってらっしゃい風雪が祝福風だほら師匠の山を食らいなさい決闘せよ部外者禁止関係者目には目をついていきますよっ全力攻撃だ逃げようなんて思わないでよねここだよ燃えろ燃えろあっちぶさなわめきなさい
For Abyss 12-1, it is critical for Venti to have full energy at the end of it, because having Venti's burst at the beginning of 12-2 for the treasure hoarders is absolutely necessary to save a lot of time. The treasure hoarders are incredibly obnoxious without Venti's burst. Ganyu was basically made for this chamber, being able to snipe down the flies. In case you wondered why I waited a bit, I wanted the Electro Aura to buff the last bit of the first wave instead of the second wave, after which it was just a matter of charging their bursts before the next chamber. For 12-3-1, this is the best comp in the entire game to beat it as quickly as possible. Hu Tao's role was to take out the Abyss Lectors as quickly as possible, but overall, her role throughout this entire Abyss 12 Gauntlet was somewhat minor, mostly acting as a crit rate buffer for Ganyu and a sub DPS in 12-3-1. Supposedly 16 or 18 seconds is possible, one of those, I forget which one, but I've never personally been able to do that. For Eula's run, again, Venti needed his burst at the end of 12-1 for 12-2. Eula was easily able to dispatch at the enemies with her burst in 12-1, but I intentionally had Eula do just not enough damage so Venti can charge his burst. 12-2 is an absolute annoyance for Eula, but I believe a lot of time can still be saved from my attempt at 12-2. Eula needs to focus down the flies while the treasure hoarders are enjoying their time in the tornado. As you may have noticed, this fly matrixed Eula and dodged so many of her attacks. Good job, random fly. Overall, I believe up to 10 seconds can be saved here, but perhaps that will be for another time. 12-3 is actually one of Eula's biggest weaknesses. Eula does not have any trouble taking out the Abyss Lectors, but without Xiangling and Ganyu, who are the two best characters for breaking the Abyss Lector shield, it was all up to our good boy Bennett to deplete their shields. So all in all, both teams did very well in this Abyss 12 Gauntlet, with some mechanical disadvantages for Eula and plenty of time to improve for both teams. But now let's take a look at the second half of Abyss 12. Oh, the second half of Abyss 12 was absolutely horrific. 12-1 wasn't too bad. But 12-2-2 was an absolute nightmare. Not only is there a 1 in 4 chance for both of the boars to charge at you, even when they do, there is no guarantee that you can dispose of this hellish wave properly. On top of all of the problems with 12-2, and because Venti is on the Part 2 team, you have to swat down all the flies and take out the treasure hoarders every single time without Venti. This became mind-numbing eventually. So I don't want you guys to jump to any conclusions here because, admittingly, I tried this the most with Eula since she was the first character I did this with, and therefore had the most patience for. I believe Ganyu can also get around 50 seconds, and I believe Eula can actually get around 48 seconds, just based on some time lost here and there that I'm certain that can be saved. As for Hu Tao, I'm not sure to be honest, but one thing I am sure about is that she can do this much faster than 87 seconds. For any of you Hu Tao mains that may want to give this Abyss 12 Gauntlet the second half a go, please do, and let me know how you did. Seeing all this though, and knowing that Hu Tao and Ganyu make a great team for the first half of Abyss 12, while Eula is extremely potent in the second half of Abyss 12, here is a full Abyss 12 run with Ganyu and Hu Tao in Part 1, and Eula in Part 2. Although this time can be massively improved, with a lot of time to be saved in 12.2 and 12.3. If you see any strategic changes that can help improve the time for this full Abyss run, let me know in the comments below. Despite all three of these characters being in a competition against each other, sometimes they're actually the best when they're working together. Guys, I'm sorry this one took longer than I had hoped, but the Abyss run started to chip away at my sanity. What do you think about the results of this DPS showdown? Who, if any of them, do you think won? If you enjoyed this video, I regularly make C0 character showcases, guide videos, DPS showdowns, and more. So be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out. And I'd really appreciate it if you commented and liked this video for the algorithm. Thanks for watching, and thank you to Dragon Raja for sponsoring this video. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Went to Lose, signing out.